G'day all, it's Colin from PCTLC and thanks for joining me. In this video I'm going to be looking at a distro that I looked at a couple of years ago, and I was sort of inspired to look at this because a video came out from Esnix a couple of years ago in regards to PakOS. Now PakOS, probably because I looked at it once before, the developer has asked me to take another look at it. His previous one was, it's Debian based and it's based on LXDE. So that's where we're at with that. And the previous one, if we have a look at the desktop, let's just have a look. I took a screenshot. That was his desktop in, that's full screen that. So that was his desktop, LXDE desktop. And that's what we were looking at in his previous build. So now he said he's learned a lot since then, and he's updated and he's now using the LXQT desktop. Like he says here, after learning a lot from my mentors like Esnix and his great community at YouTube, I decided to start from scratch using Debian 10 and LXQT, an extremely lightweight and polished desktop. The result is a more stable, lightweight and full-featured, in his honest opinion, experience. I have tried to include everything needed for daily use by a common user. All suggestions and reviews are welcome. Outlook has been kept similar to Microsoft Windows by design. However, this time other themes have not been left out, so you are free to change all the themings as per your taste. So you couldn't change icons. I couldn't find icons in his in the last time I did his video. I think he just wanted to make it so those couldn't be changed to keep a little bit of familiarity with the desktop environment for users, because he's definitely targeting users from Windows, no doubt about it. So you're free to change all theming as per your taste. ClamAV antivirus is installed with latest signatures pre-installed. However, its service has been turned off to reduce RAM usage, which is still under 200 megabytes. However, if antivirus service is turned on, it will jump to more than 700. So be careful before deciding. Latest version of WP Office, Etcher, crossover, you need to buy a license for that, etc. have been included, including Firefox Quantum. So no add-ons are pre-installed in Firefox. Now, in his last one, he had a lot of add-ons and he had all these tabs opening up. So he's not doing that at the moment, but I think he still plans to be doing that. But he says here, but as soon as I am able to do it, I will add 4 to 5 security add-ons. So it sounds like security is something that he has in mind for his distro. Now, his distro is aimed purely at Pakistan. That's why it's called PakOS. So we're going to have a little bit of a read down the bottom here. And we're doing this to understand where the developer's coming from and what he's trying to achieve. So PakOS is a humble attempt to make an OS primarily for Pakistani people with their peculiar problems. Limitations in terms of resources available at their disposal and tastes. If this effort results in an OS which can be used by others, he would be honoured. Pakistan as a nation has very resources at its disposal. Most of the people who use computers have very old hardware available. This makes the PC owners forced to use outdated OSs like Windows XP, which is extremely outdated and full of viruses. People are glued to Windows OS and can't think outside the box. Hence PakOS, a completely open source OS with extremely light footprint in terms of RAM and processor usage. He hopes to make it work with 256 megabytes of RAM and a single core processor in real world use, with visual outlook similar to Windows. So he wants to try and keep like a Windows, that sort of Windows feel, so people do sort of feel, it's not going to exactly look like Windows. Had a look at it. I've sort of run it a little bit in VirtualBox. So we're going to run through the install on VirtualBox and then we're going to have a look on real hardware because I want to see how this performs on real hardware. And I'm going to use the same laptop that I used last time, which is my Lenovo IdeaPad 110. So that's what I tried it on last time. And I'm going to try it on there again and see how we go. So he's saying that the people are fixed on Windows OS and they're not able to think outside the box. Hence PakOS, a completely open source OS with extremely light footprint in terms of RAM and processor usage. So he hopes to make it work with 256 megabytes of RAM and a single core processor in real world use with a visual outlook similar to Windows. So let's keep that in mind. Also, it has been reasonably secure for home, office and internet use. And it can be achieved by these means. So he's saying here, continuous security updates for Debian stable, option to encrypt drive with unlocks at boot time, open source antivirus pre-installed, ClamAV, ClamTK, firewall pre-installed and pre-activated, UFW, GUFW, web applications further secured using application firewall, browser pre-installed with open source plugins, still learning how to do it, and any and all means to improve security, all suggestions are welcome. That's his plan. That's his goal. That's the goal he wants to achieve. He wants to help the Pakistani community out and get them onto an OS that's a lot more secure than using outdated software like Windows XP. So good on him for that. So we'll keep a few of these things in mind and we'll keep into consideration some of these things when looking at the desktop itself. So we're going to boot the OS in VirtualBox to start with and check it out and install it. So we've got the live AMD 64, live AMD 64 failsafe and advanced options, which is hardware detection tool and memory diagnostic tool. So we'll go back there and we'll choose live AMD 64. Now I have got PakOS installed on this here, but I'm going to install over the top of that. Okay, so that's we're booted up. We are booted up into the live system. Now this may look a little bit confusing to start with, and it was for me when I first started. It makes more sense once I get this screen sorted out. Okay, so let's close the settings. Now what we've got here is Conky settings for some reason opening up on first boot on the live system. Now, I don't know if that's intended behavior or not, because I don't know whether anybody wants to choose that on first startup. I'm not sure. Maybe they just need to see the Conky first so they know what they're dealing with to start with. So we're going to close that and just use whatever the default Conky is. Now, the other thing we've got here is the PakOS Hub. This is a small little app that he's got running here for themes, security, updating PakOS, software install, and dedications. Now, for some reason, this shell's running in the background, so I don't know if he's worked out how to get rid of that. But that's definitely distracting, so probably want to try and figure out how to get rid of that shell, and I can't tell him how to do that because I wouldn't know. But maybe Esnix might be a good person to know how to sort that out. So what we're going to do is cancel this to start with, and there we have the desktop. And I don't know if that Conky's best placed in the middle. Maybe that's why the Conky settings were starting up. Let's just check out what we've got here. Conky Manager. See if that opens up again. Okay, so I think we need to edit widget. So I'll put it on bottom right for now. So that's install this, install PakOS, and execute that. And you'll notice that his desktop backgrounds keep changing. And he has, I'm not sure what's managing the desktops at the moment, but yeah, they definitely keep changing, and there's a lot of pictures of Pakistan in there. So what he's done here is, in the previous build, I'm pretty sure he had the Debian, the standard Debian installer, which is either the graphical or the N-Cursors installer. Now what he's done is he's using the Calamares installer, which I think is a good choice because that makes it probably a lot easier for people to install. The Debian installer is okay, but I think this one's a lot more user-friendly, and I think if people who aren't familiar with the Debian installer could be slightly confused, I think. If you're heading for the masses and you want to get this towards the masses within Pakistan, then yeah, it's definitely a good choice, I believe, in my opinion anyway. So let's go for Australia, Perth, English Australia default. Now you'll probably see install alongside. That would probably not be there if I didn't have PakOS installed already. But what we're going to do is just do erase disk. What have we got currently? 8 gigs of swap and 20 odd gigs of hard drive. So we're just going to erase disk, and it's going to do exactly the same thing. If you have a look, this is the new PakOS, that's the old one. This is the old swap, this is the new swap. Not that it does anything with the swap. Swap will just stay there anyway. It's just representing that in different colors because it's showing you that it's making a change. It's the only reason it's a different color. And the bootloader is going to be SDA because we're using the whole disk. And let's click next. Now I've called it PakVBox, the name of the computer. I always call it either after the desktop or after the distro. That's how I name it. Or should I call it Packy? I'll call it the PakVBox. That sounds better. PakVBox. Okay, so let's click next, and that's what it's going to do, and we shall install. So that's a fairly painless install, very easy to do. Considering if people are going to do that, yeah, they have to make sure that they've backed up all their data because this is going to wipe the disk completely clean. But definitely if there's a lot of people in Pakistan using old hardware, they would be absolutely, it would be to their benefit to install something like PakOS to keep their hardware going for a lot longer. Get off, if they're using Windows XP, they definitely need to be off XP for sure. Okay, so that is the install complete. So we're going to restart and just have a quick look at the install desktop and see if anything changes. I think from memory it was the same. I think you'll find it's very similar to the actual live startup, if I'm not mistaken. Well, actually, speaking of live startup, so let's boot PakOS, and that is our login screen. So let's log in. And the reason why I want to show you this on VirtualBox, do a startup, is because I really can't show you those things on real hardware. So there you got the shell starting up, the PakOS hub. So we'll close that for now. And you've also got your Conky starting up as well. So we'll close that, and it's in the middle again. So that's all right, that's the desktop. So what I've got to do is I've got to write the image to the USB and install it onto the laptop and see how I go with that. And I'm interested to see how this copes on a low spec laptop. So that was PakOS, bit of a read up about PakOS and what the developer's trying to achieve, and the install as well. And the desktop, as you can see here, we'll look a little bit more into the desktop once we install it on real hardware. So I shall see you on the desktop of real hardware. So here we are on the desktop of PakOS. I've done an install, and I was mainly doing the first part of the video on VirtualBox, as you know, and I forgot to put the internet on, but it installed without internet connection. So I haven't actually connected that yet. So I thought I'd do that while I'm recording. And I hope the sound's good because I'm not quite sure about the sound, to be honest. So yes, it's opened up with the Conky manager. It's done that. So we'll close that. Now the Conky, on VirtualBox, this was in the middle of the screen, but on real hardware, it's actually to the side. So that's a bit different than VirtualBox. So it just goes to show you can have some funny things going on in VirtualBox at times. So it's not always an accurate depiction of what's actually going on real hardware, although it can be good enough to show you a system visually anyway. So PakOS, it's opened with the PakOS hub. I'm going to close that for now. I'm going to connect to the internet. So that was fairly easy to do, connect to the internet, no problem at all. So let's have a look around the desktop and see what's going on here. They're running an XFCE panel with a whisker menu inside of LXQT desktop. So that's what he's got going on out of the box. And I'm going to quickly go through what's installed on here so we can just quickly get that out of the way. Let's just have a quick look. He's got Audacity, Bleach Bit, as root Bleach Bit, boot info, boot repair, bulk rename, a game of chess, Clam TK, Conky manager, GNOME disks, disk manager, ebook reader, enable internet for PakOS. So there must be some sort of issues they have in Pakistan. So looks like he's made this to sort that issue out. Archive and Grandpa Archive Manager, Fax Address Book, Featherpad, File Associations, File Manager, FileZilla, Firefox, FireJail Configuration Wizard, Fire Tools, Firewall Configuration, another game I think, another game. Franz, I'm not quite sure what Franz is. I think it must be a one-stop shop for all your messaging apps, I think. I'm not really sure. Somebody out there might know what it is. I've never used it before. Calculator, GDebi, GIMP, GParted, Grub Customizer, GThumb, GUVC View, Hibernate, another game, HP Tools. Still got the install system there after install, so that really needs to be removed after install. Kdenlive, KeyPassX, another game I think. Our Wallpaper Manager Komorebi, Laferia Read, that's a news feed, is it? Lights off, turn off all the lights, not quite sure what that is. LX Image, which is an LXQT image viewer. LXQT Configuration Center, another game. Comics, a viewer for comic book archives. Another game. Monitor settings. Network tools. Nibbles. Guide a worm, oh, that's another game. OBS Studio. I didn't realize that was in here. Virtualbox. Arraj Calendar, OS Uninstaller, remove any operating system from your computer, that's interesting. PakOS First Boot, PakOS Developer Tools, PakOS iCandy, PakOS Fast Updates, PakOS Hub, PakOS Links, PakOS Security, PakOS Services Management, PakOS Value Added Software Install, the PCMan FMQT File Manager, Qt Terminal, I don't know what QPS is, QDP View, QPDF View, Clipper, QTerminal Dropdown, another game, Redshift, Remaster PakOS, Remina, to connect to remote desktops, another game I think, Screen Grab, Screensaver, Screenshot, Sensor Viewer, Session Settings, Shortcut Keys, Simple Scan, Simple Screen Recorder, which is what I'm using, SM Player, Software and Update, Software, Sound Converter, Stacer, another game, Synaptic Package Manager, System Profiler and Benchmarker, some more games, Thunar File Manager, Thunderbird, Transmission, Update PakOS, USB Guard, not quite sure what that is, USB Imager, write images to USB, VLC Media Player, Wallpaper Creator, WPS Office with the PDF reader as well, so writer, presentation, spreadsheets and writer, Zathura, Zulu Crypt, graphical front end for Zulu Crypt, I'm not quite sure what that is, and Zulu Mount. So that is a lot of applications to absorb. So keeping in mind that he was saying that most people in Pakistan have very old hardware available to them. So let's have a look at some sort of system monitor or something like that. You've got Stacer. I'm not sure how accurate that is. Probably best to use Htop, I think. So this is running 770 odd megabytes, and I am recording, so keep that in mind. I am on, let's have a look at the specs for this laptop. So let's go to about, so that's LXQT, sorry. We need the system profiler. Where's that system profiler? Intel Celeron N3060 1.6 gigahertz, Now this is running quite smoothly on this laptop, and I'm recording. Normally I have a little bit of lag when I'm recording on this laptop, but actually this is running quite well. So I'm pretty impressed with that. Let's go to the summary. So that's my processor. I've got 4 gigs of memory, 827 megabytes used. So I probably need to report what the usage is when I'm not recording. So there you have some system information there in the terminal. CPU usage is 92%. It's a Lenovo IdeaPad 110 running the kernel 4.19 on Debian 10, stable I believe. Intel Atom Celeron. So that's the specs there. GPU driver i915. So let's see if we have Htop installed. No. All right, so that's Htop installed. So let's check out Htop. Yep, we're running, well, Stacer must be reporting fairly correctly anyway. So that's looking at 780 odd megabytes. So he was talking about he's hoping to make it work in 250 megabytes of RAM. Now I'm not sure how these things work these days in today's Linux distros, or the kernel and how it works and all that, but sometimes I think it uses a higher memory if it's got memory available. I think the more memory you have, I think the more memory it uses, and if you've got less memory it probably uses less. I'm not sure about that, but whether this would run in 256 megabytes of RAM, I'm not sure. But he does have his other desktop. Now let's have a look at the PakOS specific stuff, which is under other. So he has enable internet for PakOS. So what is that? So, oh yeah, we've looked at that before, didn't we? Yep. So that must sort out some issues they have in Pakistan, possibly. I'd have to think that's what that is. We have PakOS first boot. So in here, you can choose enable lightweight menu, enable full menu, which is the XFCE menu with the XFCE panel. So that's what that is. And then you've got enable lightweight menu, which is a low memory LXQT menu, which is the LXQT desktop panel, and a menu that he's looks like he's adjusted himself. So we may have to look at that. PakOS fast updates. Let's see what this does. All right, well that was pretty quick. I don't know what it did, but it was pretty quick. Nonetheless, PakOS Hub, PakOS links. Let's check that out. So PakOS on SourceForge, on DistroWatch, PakOS on Debian derivatives sensors, PakOS on Linux weekly news, dedications, and exit. So let's just try a couple of these. I'm assuming that'll open Firefox. So there's PakOS on SourceForge. Then you got PakOS on DistroWatch. I'd have to think that he could sort his links out so they actually open up in an existing instance of Firefox rather than opening a different instance every time. Over 2 gigs now, so you really need to be opening those up in different tabs rather than a different instance of Firefox. Actually, let's have a quick look at what we're looking at here. So that's opened up in summary. Close the tabs there. So it's opened up in the same area, and so was that. So they're all taking you to the same place anyway by the looks of it. So let's exit that. So we've got PakOS developer tools. So we can choose fastest update mirror. Upgrade 64-bit not required. PakOS is fully multi-arch. USB tools to do. Services management. Ports management. Update latest kernel at your own risk. Build PakOS. Choose fastest update mirror. Let's try that one. Okay, and let's exit that. So we've got the PakOS hubs, the PakOS hub. So we've got update PakOS. Let's do that. Let's do that instead of the fast update. Now fetch the update list. Let's do that. So that's the updates there. So let's cancel that for now. Let's go to themes and see what he's got to offer there. Grub theme, Grub wallpaper, user avatars, login manager, boot sequence theme, choose startup, expert mode, icon sets. So that just takes you to the LXQT settings. You can choose, well, it didn't actually take you directly to the icons, then it took you to the widget style. Should take you to the icons, I think. It's got Papyrus running, that's a good choice. Choose language, LXQT desktop themes, animated wallpapers, Conky widgets. Okay, let's cancel that. Dedications, so that just takes you to that other list again. Did we look at dedications? I'm not sure if we did or not. Let's try that. PakOS is dedicated to the great people of Pakistan who have always triumphed in the face of harshest calamities and will continue to do so. I also dedicate my humble effort to my mentor and teacher Esnix, a great gentleman. PakOS would never have been made possible without his selfless encouragements, great spirit and belief in open source. Well, that's a very nice tribute to Esnix there. And Esnix does do some really good work on these sorts of things, and he's obviously very grateful for that. So let's exit that. Software install on the PakOS hub. So we've got some software here that looks like he's got his own PakOS app store. Now I know VirtualBox is installed. Now let's talk about VirtualBox being installed on this system. Now he was saying that he's targeting people that are using very old hardware. So I don't know whether VirtualBox is a good choice to even be installed in here out of the box. Maybe it should be just something that's offered here, because if he's trying to cater for the old hardware users and also maybe the newer hardware users, then this is a good choice. And I think some of these things, if there's any of these besides Firefox installed in here, probably a good idea to have it in the PakOS store rather than have it installed out of the box. That would reduce your ISO size, I believe, and people with the high-end hardware can install VirtualBox from here. And there's a few other applications here that may be his own choice that he believes people may want to use. But I think it's a good idea to have those sorts of things not out of the box, but offered within this PakOS App Store. And then you've got security, update antivirus, browse security add-ons, manage internet firewall, web application firewall, web application firewall, USB guard, encrypted storage, and Linus security audit. Not quite sure what that is. I don't really use any of those things myself, to be honest, but it's good to see that he's offering some security for the users. Now, pressing the Windows key does not open Whisker menu. You have to click on it. You can sort that out, it's not a problem. So let's have a look at, we've got software installed as well. I'd have to assume that's the GNOME Software Center, and it looks like it is. Okay, so it looks like you've got the option of installing a lot of software from the GNOME Software Center itself. So that's another option. So it looks like he's got all avenues covered when it comes to installing software, including his own PakOS App Center as well. So there you go. And I just thought I'd follow on with software there because we were looking at software. So going back to his PakOS Hub, I think it was. Yep. Software install. I noticed he also had Ubuntu Snap Store offered there and some other apps as well. PakOS links, I think we already looked at. PakOS security we looked at. Yes, we did. PakOS services management. So you can enable and disable services from here. So he's got quite a few things enabled. PakOS value added software install, which I think is probably the same as what we're looking at. So he's got that in two places there. The PakOS value added, that's what he's calling it. The value added software, is that what he called it? PakOS value added software install. PakOS ISO remaster. Build ISO, write ISO on USB. Upload ISO on SourceForge, exit. So that is the PakOS specific applications there. Got a lot going on there. I don't know whether it should be under other, and he's got a few icons that are the same here. So he's got applications here about LXQT. That could probably be in system tools, I believe. And other, I think that could be his own menu called PakOS Featured or something, PakOS Apps or something like that. Could probably call it that. And there's no need to have this one here, I don't think. That could be definitely under System Tools, I believe. And then he's got another one here, which is the same. So there's applications here, lock screen. So that lock screen should be under Leave with all the others. So that doesn't need to be there, and either does that one. So he could get rid of those two straight away. This one could be called PakOS Apps and maybe give it a different icon. And then you've got all applications. Now to look at, let's open the file manager. Now he's got all these bookmarks here. Not sure if he knew that he's left these here, but they need to be taken away. And we don't have any home folders under here as well. Looks like we've got let's see, hidden files. Yeah, show hidden. So let's uncheck that. Now we only have documents and download. Now I can tell you that in VirtualBox at some point the rest of these folders show up. I'm not sure at what point that was, but they did eventually show up. So he needs to get rid of these bookmarks because I think that would be very confusing for a lot of people. Unless they're there for a reason, I cannot see any reason why they would be there. And he really needs to put these ones here as bookmarks as well. Let's have a look. Can we bookmark these? I think if we open, we can bookmark, add to bookmarks, but then that's just adding down here. So let's remove that. There is a way of, so that was a command I've got in my my bash script to force the home folders. So let's just see if that works in any way. And there we go. So that's actually worked. Doesn't give you your folders on the side. I don't know how that is, these places here. I'm not sure if you can just place them in there or not. No, you cannot. I'm not sure if we close it and open it back up, that makes any difference. No, I'm not quite sure how you get those down the side here. Unless we have a look at, let's view hidden files. Now, I think this, I'm not sure what theme he's got going here, but there's definitely, they look like they're not showing correctly. Those boxes there, they look like they're, half of them are missing. I'm not sure if that's meant to be that way or not. .config and this one here. So they're all in there. Yep, so they're all in there, but they're not showing on the side there. I'm not sure how you do that. I've worked out how to get your home folders up and running. I've worked that out. I'm pretty happy with that, but the rest of it, I'm not sure. They can be used as bookmarks, but that should be part of the system here. Those folders should be part of the system in here. So yeah, those bookmarks, he might want to check those out and check out the home folders and maybe get them put in here somewhere, possibly. Unless he's intended it to be that way, then fair enough. So let's go to the LXQT preferences and see what themes he's got going here. So let's go to Appearance. He's got a window, a Win10 here. So let's try that one. Yeah, that doesn't look much better, does it? Win10, apply, system, apply. Widget style maybe we're looking at, isn't it? It's Qt style GTK2. I'm not sure about these settings, to be honest. I never play around with Qt settings. I get confused with this. A Qt style Windows, maybe. It's got a PakOS one here. GTK PakOS. Let's apply that. Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a good idea. No, that wasn't really a good idea, was it? Add weighted dark and add weighted dark, apply. And yeah, that didn't work too well. So go back to GTK2. Let's try them all, see what they do. Oh, that's a bit different. Clean looks. So this is the problem you have when you have these other things available here and people mess around with them. I cannot resize this window enough to get to apply. So I'm stuck with this theme now, unless there's another way of changing it. Okay, so if you hold the Alt button and click the left key, you can actually lift that higher up above there and click apply. So what we need to do is change this back to what we had it, which was the GTK2, let's hit the Alt button, lift it up and choose apply. For those people that get caught out with that, this is why it's best if you know that themes work well if you're going to have the options here. Otherwise that could confuse people big time. Add way to dark. Apply that. Okay, so I wasn't sure why that wasn't changing. It's because I had to close it and reopen it again. So that's that. That's not play around with the settings for that. Let's just leave that. Conky Manager. Let's just see what other Conkys we have in here. So don't think you want that screen full screen anyway. Yep, the Alt key and the right mouse key, you can change that. There we go. And then we can click through some of these Conkys, see what's on offer. That's probably one of the most popular Conkys, I think, that one there, the Gotham. And looks like he's got his own style Conky there as well, with his own sort of themed PakOS Windows icon there. So there's plenty of Conkys to choose. Personally, I don't normally use Conkys, to be honest. Time's down on the corner here. And there's your calendar. Calendar opens up in the middle. I'd probably prefer that to open up above that. I think that will stay there. Yes, it does. Got your sound options here. Audio mixer, you've got a link to audio mixer, which is not working. Pulse volume, or pulse audio volume control. So that's opening up from the menu, but not from the quick link here. So that probably needs to be fixed as well. We'll change the desktop to QT, and I'll have to do this, and then I'll have to stop recording and log out. Now let's do that first, which was the PakOS Hub, or was it? Actually, let's cancel that. I think you can do it through there. You can also do it through PakOS First Boot. That's the one. So let's enable the lightweight menu. Do you really want to log out? Well, no, I don't want to log out yet. Let's close that, and I'll stop recording, and then I will come back into the change desktop. So here we are in the LXQT desktop. We've got the LXQT menu. Let's just, yeah, the LXQT menu is the way that it works is when you do a search, it drops down with anything that's in the search, like so. So he's got his own menu happening there. Let's just get rid of that search. Search seems to be a little bit slow. Let's just have a look at Htop. So you can see we're already a couple of 100 megabytes down by using the LXQT desktop. And I am recording, so it would be a lot lower than that. And I will let you know what the usages are without recording. I'll put that just before the end of the video, I think, or just after the look around. So there's nothing much else to see except for what the layout is here. You've got Show Desktop, File Manager, PC Man, FMQT. Calendar's slightly different. I do like the LXQT calendar. I think it's a lot more modern looking than the XFCE Arrage calendar. I'm not sure if that's part of XFCE or it's just called the Arrage calendar that just comes standard with it. I'm not sure about that. That's the logout options or the shutdown options, system options, whichever we want to call it. Now the mixer there, we only have that there. We can click that and it takes us to the volume control. So that actually works in here. And then you've got your menu here. So if we just go through the menu, there's all the games, graphics, internet, office, and it looks like if there's any more, it goes to a second page like so, like the games one did. Office, other, programming, sound and video, system tools, WPS, Office, WPS Office, preferences, about LXQT, and leave. So I actually don't mind that menu. It's actually quite a nice menu. I think the only thing is when searching, Yeah, it just seems to be a little bit slow in its search. If you use the normal LXQT menu, it's a lot more responsive. This one takes a little while. If we backspace that search, it's just taken a while for the backspace to kick in as well. But I do like the menu he's got running here. It's quite nice. It's got a little bit of transparency. Looks modern, so I quite like it. I don't know if there's any way he can speed the search up at all, but even going through the menu here, everything's quite clear. You can see the size of all these, you can actually see quite easily. So I think the menu functions quite well in itself. So that was PakOS. Needs a few little refinements, but overall it's not running too badly on the low spec laptop. So we'll just check out a couple of screenshots here of Htop with the screenshot application running 1013 megabytes on XFCE. And on LXQT, you've got 399 with the screenshot application running. So use the same screenshot application for both. And that was because it does go up a little bit when you're using the screenshot application. So that was straight after a fresh boot as well, just opening the screenshot application. So that's the differences between the two desktops there. Quite a significant difference, to be honest. And I have got a couple of photos I took of Htop without the screenshot application running. And if we have a look at those ones here, that was XFCE without the screenshot application tool running. It's 962 megabytes, and the LXQT was down to 364. So yes, there's quite a significant difference between the two desktops there. So the LXQT sort of comes right out on top. Now 364 is not that far off 250 megabytes that he was talking about. So whether he's going to refine the system to suit that, I'm not sure. Be interesting to see if he can do that. Now this is PakOS again. Just a couple of things I want to talk about in PakOS. First of all, this is the VirtualBox we're running on now. If we have a look at the menu here and we do a search for simple screen recorder, say, there we go. And then we open that up, say, for example, and then we go back to the menu. Now, this is a problem that the LXQT menu had in early development. When you click that, it should clear the search box, so you go back to a normal menu. So that's not happening here, so he needs to have a look at that and see if he can clear that menu off, because you don't want the same search to be sitting there in the menu. So that's one thing I just thought I'd bring up as part of all the critiques of the PakOS distro here. And then there's another thing that I thought I'd show you in VirtualBox itself. So let's clear that off. And if you have a look when I'm backspacing, it's a little bit slow to respond as well, I've noticed. Now let's just log out of the system for a minute. Now this is the login screen, quite a nice login screen. But one thing I've noticed is if you have a look at when I'm typing, you can see the text of me typing. Now, I don't think that's a really good idea that you can see as it's typing. It should be all just asterisks or something like that. If he's talking about security and those sorts of things, that's just ABC 1, 2, 3 for this distro. Yeah, so if you're talking security, I think that's probably a major concern for people logging in on the login screen. So that's just something I thought I'd bring to his attention as well. And he's got a nice little splash screen you would have seen there. I don't know if you can see it on startup on VirtualBox, because I think it starts up a little bit too quick, to be honest. Let's just have another look. He's got a nice little splash screen that circles around. See if we can see it with the PakOS writing there. And it's not going to show it on VirtualBox. No, it doesn't show it on VirtualBox, unfortunately. Okay, so let's shut that. Oh, there it is there. You've seen it a little bit there. It spins around. So that was PakOS. I can see that he's trying to bring a distro to the masses in Pakistan, and this distro seems to be running so much better than his last one, from memory anyway. There's just a few little things that he needs to refine, I think, with the shell opening up on his PakOS hub and things like that. You don't really want shells running in the background. VirtualBox, again, like I said, yeah, I think there could be a few applications that probably could be put into his value-added software install rather than be on the system direct. And maybe the Conky could be there as an offering to use rather than being used straight out of the box, because it might not be something that everybody wants to be running. So all these little things could be contributing towards bringing down the memory usage. Although those things aren't really using memory until they're running, I suppose. But the Conky might be, probably doesn't use much. Again, it could be just another thing that, because he seems to have probably a lot of things on startup as well, so that could probably bring his memory down slightly as well. Now, whether he should be offering the XFCE panel or just stick to LXQT and work with one and not the other, I'm not sure. But I believe he's probably using that XFCE Whisker menu to give it that familiar look of Windows, because the XFCE or the Whisker menu itself and the XFCE panel can sort of give you that familiar look of Windows, and maybe he's going for that because LXQT, let's face it, the menu is a little bit different, whereas Whisker menu is sort of close to home. So maybe that's why he's done that. So I can see why, but at least he's offering both. So if it's a bit sluggish on hardware, you still got that choice of moving back to the LXQT desktop. So he's got the choice there anyway. So I can see where he's coming from with that scenario. I think he's done a pretty good job on this distro. And I think all he needs to do is just make some of those refinements and sort out those little niggles. And I think he's looking pretty good. It just needs to just give it that little bit more professional touch as far as all those little critiques I was talking about. So anyway, I wish him the best of luck, and I hope everything goes well with his PakOS, and I hope it works out that it can provide a lot of people with a nice, secure experience out of the box for Pakistani people, and also gives them something that's going to run a lot smoother than, say, an outdated Windows XP or 7 or something like that. So that was PakOS. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting and informative, and thanks for watching.